Hey everybody, Z Garcia here, and today I'm taking a look at a small wallet game from Button Shy. This is Seasons of Rice. In Seasons of Rice, the players are going to be drafting cards and putting them together in front of them in order to build up their rice paddies, trying to enclose different areas and score points for them. But besides that, at the beginning of the game, you are going to pick an ancestor who is going to give you some special ability, either a scoring ability at the end of the game or some in-play ability to let you score differently or manipulate things in a new and different way. So let's go ahead and take a look at how this works. I'll show you on the table. Come on back up here after that, and I'll give you some final thoughts. To set up the game, we're going to shuffle up the cards, and each player is going to get 2 cards dealt to them. Then we'll shuffle these up and put them character side up. Now the players will take a look at their 2, and from those 2, they're going to pick one to be their character, and one to begin their land there. Then the other player will do the same thing, of course, and we are ready to begin. Actually, they'll do that. There we go. Now we are ready to commence the game proper. We're going to shuffle the rest of these and deal them out equally to the 2 players. The game's going to be played over 2 phases, the wet season followed by the dry season, both of which are a drafting type. We are going to, during the first one, the wet season, take a look at our hand of cards here. We are going to play one to expand our land and another one that gets left on the table for when we get to the dry season. So, for example, I might do this, like so, and then maybe leave behind this one. And my opponent would do the same thing. So my opponent would take a look at theirs. They would play one. You have to make sure that when you play these out that there's grid lines, faint black lines, as well as these paths. You need to make sure that they line up. Though you can turn the cards like this if you want to. And so you could turn these however you want in order to make these groupings. So they could even do something like that, for example. And these don't always line up perfectly, but you are meant to assume that they kind of do. All right? And then maybe they'll leave behind this one here. Once that's done, we're going to switch hands. So they get the ones I had, I get these. And I play one again. So I'm going to do, now for this one, I'm going to do, what am I going to do here? Obviously this is, the part of the game that you're going to be thinking about. I might do that. And if I do that, in fact, I've just enclosed a paddy. And then I need to leave one behind. So I'll leave this one. My opponent would do the same thing. They'll play something, and they'll leave one behind. So here we go, that one. All right, now as soon as you enclose something in either season, you are going to score that paddy. And this is all listed in the rules. There's a couple of things you're going to be scoring for. The first one is the size of the paddy, which is the squares that make it up, plus the houses. So right now I've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 spaces. 4 spaces, it tells me here, is 8 victory points. And I'm going to be tracking that on my character. You do need to provide a couple of scoring tokens or something to keep track of your score on the 2 sides, the 1's place and the 10's place. So if this was 1, 2, 3, 4, and there was a house in here, that counts as +1 for the size. It'd be a size 5, which is 11 points, which is as many points as it can be. Bigger than 5 is really a waste. The other things I'm scoring are the farmers. There are 3 farmers in there. For 3 of them, I'm going to get 5 points. It's 1, 3, 5, 8 for 1, 2, 3, or 4 farmers, respectively. So I am getting another 5 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm at 13. And then I would score any buffaloes in there. Every buffalo is simply worth 2 points. That's it. This continues, again, with us picking and passing until we are down to a single card that we pass to the other player. That last one, they play into their area, and then we go to the dry season, which is going to have a couple more of these, a few more cards to draft from here. Once we get to that phase, whoever has the fewest points is going to begin. They take any one of these, they add it, they possibly score. And we continue doing that until we have run out of cards here in the dry season, and then we do any final scoring we need to do. Highest points, of course, is the winner of the game. And that's pretty much everything there is to it. The only thing I haven't talked about is our special character. Everybody has a special character, or the two players each have a special character that has some ability, either during the game ability or end of game ability. So for example, this character here says that during the game, whenever I score paddy, each buffalo is worth 4 points instead of 2 if it contains at least one farmer and no houses. So I want to prioritize then the buffalo and the farmers, especially together. This one's very simple. At the end of the game, this player is simply going to score 5 victory points. That's it. 5 points at the end of the game. And all of these have on the other side some ability. This one, during final scoring, score 2 points per set of house and buffalo presence anywhere in your landscape. This one here, when closing a paddy, if there is only one farmer, the farmer scores as many points as there are squares in that paddy, instead of the usual scoring for farmers. This one, during the game, when scoring a paddy, each buffalo is worth 1 additional point per farmer in the same closed paddy. And so on and so on. They all, again, have on the back a special ability. So that's pretty much all there is to it. You need a few tokens to keep track of your score, and everything else is handled with these 18 cards. All right, so that is Seasons of Rice here. Let's go ahead and talk about it, shall we? We're going to begin with theme. The theme here is the players are Cambodian farmers expanding their rice paddies. I like that. I think it's a nice setting for the game, and it works with what you are doing. I like the idea that this character you are utilizing for their special ability is an ancestor of yours. It's not you. It is someone imbuing you with their power and their abilities, their knowledge, perhaps. So I really like that. The aesthetics. I think the artwork here is lovely, and the card quality is great. Form factor is great. I'm still blown away with what they do at Button Shy with 18 cards and a little plastic wallet, so that's fantastic. I do, however, think the geometry, the I don't know if you call them the fronts or the backs, the character side, I am very happy with. The backs of that, sometimes the geometry doesn't quite line up for me, and as I'll mention a little bit later in ease of play, it can be hard to visualize where things do match up and don't match up, so that can mess with the visual simplicity of the game a little bit. So that's a little bit of a problem. There's also the need for you to provide a few tokens yourself. Not a big deal, but you cannot just put this in your pocket and go. You do need something, anything, to track your score throughout the game. The replay value is good. For 18 cards, there's a lot going on in here. The fact that all 18 of them have a different character, different ancestor, that's really nice. So there's a nice amount of variety and replayability that comes out of this little box. The game arc. The game has the 2 halves. They're very simple. They're very quick. They're both basically drafting, with the second one then being a little more tense perhaps, because you've got choices on the table, and you are hoping your opponent, you can see what your opponent could take, and perhaps you're hoping for that card yourself. So there's a nice amount of extra tension in the second half, simply because you're not looking at your own hand of cards. You have to pick from what your opponent keeps leaving you, right? So I think that works out pretty well. No problem there with the game arc. The ease of play, like I said, takes a little bit of a hit. The game's not hard to understand. I do think it might have benefited from having more strict construction rules with the way you can grow the rice paddy. This idea of, just line up the grid lines and you'll be good, can get you into trouble. I think it's a little too loosey-goosey for me. I would have liked it to be more rigorous, specific. There's also the idea that everything you are building in the game, the cards, of course, being rectangles, and the grid that you are constructing being offset 45 degrees from that, it seems unnecessary, honestly. I could have seen this simply be squares, having a card, say, broken down into 6 very clear areas that are also in and of themselves squares. And I think visually that would have made the game simpler to grasp, simpler to understand, without having to worry about do these two lines that make a path, does that count as them meeting? That seems slightly off. I'm assuming that that's just a card cut thing or a a graphic thing. So I don't know. It just seems like this is slightly obtuse with that grid pattern for the sake of being obtuse. And then lastly, tactics, luck, strategy. There are certainly some things to think about in the game, but to be fair, during play, it is all pretty obvious and straightforward. If you have an ancestor that informs you about something you should do, you're going to try to do that thing. Is that a big deal? Well, no. The game's, 20 minutes or so you should do that. But if somebody, like I showed you in the overview, scores from you having farmers but no houses, then you're going to try to get farmers and avoid houses. It's a pretty straightforward idea and concept. There's not a lot of halfway through the game when you go, you know what I could do now? If I switch gears, I could do... You're not going to do that. You're going to go with the thing that you've been doing because it's the thing your card says you're going to score points for. So, again, not a big deal, but it's not fantastic either. So there you go. Seasons of Rice is one of the games in this series of games, or in this publishing line, I should say, that I do like. I think the theme certainly helps. I like the look, the ambiance is very nice and relaxing. It's not a great game. There are several others from this publisher that I do like more than this one, some that I think are great games. This one's decent. It's one I will be hanging on to. It's one that I could see coming out and giving me a fun little exercise of, just drafting and enjoying the atmosphere again. But I do think some things could have been more user-friendly in this one. Mainly, again, that graphical concept on the paddies, the way they went with the paddies. So this is going to get a 6 out of 10 from me. I like it. I would recommend it if you are picking up a bunch of these wallet games. This is, I don't know, somewhere near the top of the list for me. But there are others I would certainly recommend before I recommend this one. Still, fun, like it. I'm going to be hanging on to it. So there you go. Seasons of Rice. That's a 6 out of 10 from me. My name is Garcia, everybody. Thanks very much. I'll see you on the next one.